What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe.
Go out to the phone lines right now. Ross Jackson hopping on. You'll hear him. Locked On Saints, LouisianaSports.net. He is all over the place. Ross, how are you today?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on. Hope you're having a good morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're all a bit under the weather, Ross, but we are powering through it. I want to congratulate you. You nailed the Kelvin Banks pick at number 9 overall. You put out that mock draft. You know, it was about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, Ross has Kelvin Banks number 9. I hadn't seen that a ton, and then boom, they pick it. Like, maybe what ultimately led you to that decision?
Well, I think some of it is good information. You know, I'll give credit where credit's due. I think the other part of it is kind of following the breadcrumbs of what it is that Kellen Moore has effectively been saying. Really, since before he was the New Orleans Saints head coach, we go all the way back to where, you know, when I was following him around all Super Bowl week and everything, and he talked a lot about, you know, if it were his choice, you know, he'd throw, 50-something times a game and all that, but, like, the game is won in the trenches. And all of a sudden the conversation turned into, building from the inside out and winning the game with the line of scrimmage and all these other things. And so the last kind of piece of it was during that Mickey Loomis presser on Wednesday, when Mickey Loomis was talking about how the Saints wanted to make sure that with a top 10 selection, that they're not necessarily drafting, I'm paraphrasing, but that they're not necessarily looking to draft a project. They're looking to draft somebody that's ready, somebody that's going to contribute for 8, 9, 10 years, kind of what he talks about. And just kind of following the breadcrumbs from that, and then some good information in terms of, the prospects that were the right prospects. Kelvin Banks just felt like the right guy from where things were going, and turns out that's where the Saints ended up going.
As far as the pick that everyone's going to be talking about is Tyler Shuck in the second round, the quarterback. Everyone was waiting for the Saints to make a move at that position. What are your expectations for Shuck year one in New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he starts in 2025. I think he's Kellen Moore's guy. I think he's the player that, you don't invest that highly. I guess there's 3 elements to it, right? He's the highest a quarterback has ever been drafted since 1970. 1970s when they drafted Archie Manning. He's the highest drafted quarterback in the Mickey Loomis era, and this is the first time, whether it be Hazlitt, whether it be Peyton, whether it be Dennis Allen, that this is the first time that a head coach under Mickey Loomis has gone out and drafted his quarterback, right? And so I think all of that just kind of points to why wait. It doesn't feel like things with Derek Carr are headed towards any, position of resolution that results in him being a New Orleans Saint in 2025, or at least on the field in 2025. And so with that, I feel like you're probably not going to ask the 26-year-old rookie to wait very long, right? I think you're going to end up turning things over to him, and there's a good chance that happens here in 2025.
Ross, how does he fit in Kellen Moore's offense? I mean, we hear so much about Moore. I mean, look, he's played kind of with a couple different types of quarterback, whether it be in Dallas or San Diego, Los Angeles, or Philly.
Mm-hmm.
How does Shuck kind of fit into what Moore wants to do? Why is he his guy?
Yeah, I think the thing that's always really interesting about like the Kellen Moore offense is how much it changes to fit the talent. And so I think it's more so that Kellen Moore must have seen something that he believed in when it came to Tyler Shuck as a quarterback, and then understands that he can build around that. I guess I'm not too crazy in saying that like Shuck is a little bit more of the Justin Hebert / Dak Prescott mold, in that he's not, as mobile and not as much of a dual threat as Jalen Hurts is, but he's a lot more mobile than he's given credit for, kind of like Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. So I guess maybe he fits in the offenses in the way that those guys fit. But I think the biggest thing when I asked Kellen Moore after night 2 in his post-draft press conference about what it is that stood out to him about Tyler Shuck that maybe we don't, isn't so easy to spot in terms of the physical traits and things like that. One of the things that he talked about was this pre-snap mind, right? His ability to make checks, get in and out of plays, make adjustments at the line of scrimmage, and read defenses. And so I think that's really the thing that maybe fits best in Kellen Moore's offense, because when you have a quarterback that can do that and that you trust to do that, and Kellen Moore wants that to be a part of his offense, it opens up the playbook entirely for you in terms of being able to have multiple calls at the line of scrimmage, being able to make these adjustments and things like that. I think that's the way that he fits, is that he allows Kellen Moore's offense to be both balanced and versatile at the same time based on what he can do before the snap. I think the big arm helps. I think the 4.63 40 speed helps too. You can run the play action. You can run the RPOs with him, all those other things. I think he just kind of opens up the possibilities for Kellen Moore if I'm trying to look at it through Kellen Moore's lens.
Ross, another guy I'd love a take on from you would be the safety, Jonas Sanker, because I look at this and I go, okay, man, that feels like a really good pick. And then when I look at kind of the success the Saints have had on day two and even later drafting safeties under Mickey Loomis, whether it be C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Marcus Williams, even Von Bell, it seems like they have a pretty good eye for those guys later in the draft. And Sanker looks like he could just be next in line.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, look, the Saints going into this draft had used 6 day 2 selections in the last 10 years on defensive backs in day 2. And now you can make it 7 of 11, right? I mean,
Yeah.
They followed their trend on both sides. They went trenches day 1. They went to the secondary in day 2 at some point. And I think that what Sanker does is that he gives you a really, really outstanding safety that can play close to the line of scrimmage. The Saints kind of did this thing with Tyrann Mathieu over the course of the past couple of years that I don't think did Matthew much justice, and they kept playing him super close to the line of scrimmage, which I don't think is the worst place for him, but I do think that he's better prowling the middle of the field, kind of freelancing a little bit, like let the veteran be the veteran, let him go out there and do what it is that he does. And I think that what Sanker gives you is a player that you can immediately plug into a role of like a traditional strong safety, kind of like what they started to do with Will Harris before the injuries kind of got in the way for what his season turned into in 2025, the hamstring injury. And so I think that that's where Sanker ends up helping you. He's a solid tackler, a really good instinctive player, understands run fits and how to get involved in the run game. Not the deep coverage safety guy, but somebody that maybe can develop in that area a little bit. But I like the fact that he's the guy that can play closer down to the line of scrimmage so that you can utilize guys like Tyrann Mathieu and or Justin Reed in sort of those deep safety situations.
Ross, going back to the offense a little bit, last segment we were talking about our favorite picks in the draft or really good value picks. A guy I look at is, in the 6th round, you grab running back Devin Neil out of Kansas.
Yeah.
And then when you look at this running back room, I mean, you have Kamara, you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You don't really know what you're going to get out of Kendre Miller. He's been injured. Like, Devin Neil has a shot to potentially come in and get you some significant snaps. What are your thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's important that this coaching staff, just like they went out and got their quarterback, went out and got a hand-picked running back, right? Doesn't necessarily saddle them with this running back for the future being a 6th-round selection, but it is something that you look at and you go, okay, well, this is the evaluation of this coaching staff that added them. And so I think that that's what a lot of this draft class was. I mean, they hit almost every position group outside of maybe one of the position groups they needed to hit most. But they ended up hitting almost every position group, and it kind of shows you a little bit of kind of the quiet rebuild that this draft class represents. Even though the Saints would never say that way, I'm saying it that way. But I think Devin Neil represents a part of that. He's a guy that comes in and effectively gives you like your staff's selection at a really important position, and somebody that's been hyper productive too. I mean, he led Kansas in rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, and 100 plus rushing yard games. Had over 1,000 yards in each of the last 3 seasons, 16 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. Just in each of the last 2 seasons. I mean, just an incredible, highly productive player, despite only carrying the ball 190 times per season. Still has a lot of tread on the tires, despite all of that production that he's done, over 4,300 rushing yards in his career. And he's been durable, I think, is the other thing. And that's another trend throughout this draft class, guys, is 9 for 9. Every single one of these players has at least 40 games of college experience. 8 for 9, not a single one ended up missing more than 4 games in a season, Tyler Shuck being the only example. These guys are durable, and these guys are experienced, and I think Devin Neil is the perfect fit of that for a running back in this class as well.
Ross, I actually can't believe it took me, especially this long, to ask you this. How shocked are you that they made all 9 picks? I mean, did they lock Mickey Loomis in a broom closet and take his phone away? What is going on?
Mickey talked about that after the draft too, and he was like, "Look, we talked about it, okay, but we just didn't do it." And actually, I think it was the right thing. I think that's what they needed to do. This is the first time that they've made that many selections, 9 selections, since 2015. Now, to be honest, the 2015 draft wasn't great, so you're hoping for a better result from this one. But I do think that was necessary. I think that was a situation for New Orleans, or this draft rather was a situation for New Orleans that they needed to go in there and try to address every position. They needed to go in there and maximize all of their selections so that the quarterback pick made sense, right? If you traded 3 or 4 of those picks to go and take the quarterback, then all of a sudden you're in a very different situation. The other thing that I really liked about it is that they just kind of sat back and let the draft come to them. They didn't make moves, and they not only made every selection in this year, but they maintained all the selections for 2026 that they walked into the draft with. And I think that was really important for them too. So another acknowledgement that, I think that they understand kind of what this draft class is a part of for the future of this team.
Ross, real quick before we get you out of here, kind of what grade do you give this draft class as a whole?
I'm going to be honest. I'm terrible with draft grades.
Yeah.
So I always kind of default to this. So I'm telling on myself before I make a pick. I'm going to say it's a C draft class.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it's a C draft class is because the position at which you took the biggest risk is the biggest position on the field. That's quarterback, right? So I think we have to acknowledge that. And that's going to be, and with every draft class in which you take a quarterback in the top 50, your entire draft class is going to be success or failure based upon what happens with that quarterback. And so I think everything ends up hinging on Tyler Shuck, but I like a lot of the other selections. Danny Stutzman, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. Quincy Riley, that's a starter quality cornerback, out of Louisville that you got in day 3. Fadil Diggs being drafted at the very end of this draft is somebody that can absolutely be a situational pass rusher for you and fits Brandon Staley's defensive mold so well. So I like all of those things, but I think the biggest risk happening at the biggest position just kind of knocks it down to average for me, and then we got to see how the rest of it all plays out.
Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints. You can also hear his stuff and see a lot of his stuff at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, thanks for hopping on with us this morning.
Thank you, guys. You take care. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the 2 guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.